It's ADSN on the beat, where the data meets the street. James and Daniel in your feed, breaking down the code you need. Tech talk, ad game, and a little AI. Every week we got the chat on ADSN.
James, ADSN back with a late breaking episode this week. We're going to jump right into it. I think every sports fan knows Kalshi, Polymarkets, all of these predicting markets. Matt Kalish, the CEO of DraftKings, just went off on Twitter this past week, basically calling out Kalshi in particular, basically talking about their CAC. They're acquiring all these users, and it's, in his words, a check that their ass can't catch. I loved it. It's a great thread, but he basically goes on to just talk about like why DraftKings, not named, is doing this the right way, and while Kalshi and Polymarkets and others are just going about this the entirely wrong way.
It was a pretty baller tweet. He definitely took the gloves off. My instinct is I have seen this story play out before a bunch, and I'm unwilling to not count people out, but it's either like an Uber Lyft scenario in which like he's actually wrong and that Kalshi can fund itself to escape velocity. Also, Polymarket's like really legit. And actually, someone sent me a deal. Probably can't say this, but I learned more about the business, and it's like a crazy business. It's either they can fund it to escape velocity, which I kind of think they can, or you are in a like bird lime style fight in which this is actually a feature and therefore like it's going to implode. One thing that like I feel like he doesn't talk about in this tweet that should be talked about, and I listened to the CEO of Robinhood talk about it, is that like, Robinhood now I believe is taking the prediction markets back to themselves. So they're no longer licensing out the markets, like they are the market maker.
Yeah.
And that does show you that there may be a lot of competition coming into this one. But as we've said 1,000 times on this show now, distribution is what matters. Yeah. These guys have it. DraftKings has it. So does like Schwab and like, I think everyone's going to get into this.
I think the DraftKings, what was most interesting to me is he kind of made the point that these prediction markets are not delivering the experience that regulated sports books do, which obviously he's alluding to DraftKings giving that experience.
I call BS in that. I don't like that. I think the experience. I don't like it. I love the fact that I can bet on Spencer Pratt, winning or like dropping an AI video. Like I think it's hysterical. Like a sports book. There's like I really enjoy the crowdsourced nature of these things. It's probably not responsible.
I think you're one of those people, that's in the market. You're not a professional gambler. You're not a professional market maker. You're somewhere in there, though. I
actually just was looking at a tweet because the funny thing about this is people are starting to read into prediction markets like that's polling, and they are actually incredibly easy to manipulate. Like I even made bets on Pratt and on like there's a guy Rick Caruso was running for governor here that I was like making little bets. And I was moving the market and then screenshotting it and putting on X and being like, "Oh my gosh, they're like momentum's insane."
And creating their own propaganda.
I'm not sure if that maybe makes his point for him, and that these are kind of the Wild West. But whatever, I think it's fun. And we talked about this a few weeks ago too. There's the one about clinical trials, and I think that's like so fascinating that like there'll be there's just like a whole economy around this that like could definitely pop up. But I hope they don't take it away from me quite yet. I like it still.
No. Well, speaking of things that have gotten taken away, we're a little late to this party, but I think it's a fascinating one to look at. Is everyone is now very familiar with Spotify's new 20th anniversary app icon that they released a few weeks ago, and the just like hate that they got overnight about like, what is this? The designer should be fired, like the whole thing. And they had to walk it back, which to me is like kind of hysterical that this company released it.
Mine still has it.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry, maybe they didn't walk it back yet, but the the head of it came out and was like, guys, this is like a temporary icon. Like it will go back to the old icon soon. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought it was the whole time. That's why I was like, why is everyone freaking out? I do think I think it's kind of hysterical. And I think it looked cool. I actually didn't know what it was at first. I was like, is it like a Christmas ornament? It was like not
I saw it in my car first and I was like, is my car broken? I was like tapping it.
Yeah, it does. It reminds me when we were at Snapchat. Do you remember this? In like 2015, we had like those dev versions of Snap.
Yeah.
And there was a time where like Evan like was going to change the name of Snapchat to Specs, I think. And it was just like the spec logo on the app. And we were all like, oh man, this is not going to be good. Like I remember staring at being like, does anyone know if this is real? And it ended up like just being a test. But I think it's kind of fun. And they did like the wrap up thing, like based on how long, like I watched mine the other day. It was like it was so funny. Like the first song I ever listened to on Spotify was like this like extremely obscure, like 1950s country song by like some woman. And I had like, clearly it must've been, I was like confused on a desktop or something, like trying to navigate it, but I did watch it. It's kind of fun.
I had a similar one where I still don't even know who the artist is, what the song is, but apparently it was one of my most listened to. So either there's a glitch in the algorithm or somebody's using my Spotify account.
Yeah. It also was like, just like you are like, I'm like one of the top Huntrix K-pop Demon Hunter fans like in the world. I mean, like my daughters just beat that thing to death, and I think Spotify was confused. Like it was definitely like a weird wrap up.
It's just very varied.
Yeah, very eclectic. Yeah. But yes, it's Good logo. Good.
Still on the internet.
We're talking about it. That's important.
Yeah. All right, so what do we got next?
We have a post from Paul Graham, who I don't really like Paul Graham, but it's a good post, I guess. And he says, if Steve Jobs were still alive, he would have the moral authority to face and maybe even to solve this problem. But I doubt anyone in the phone business now. And he's referring to, could digital media be affecting birth rates? And it's a change in total fertility rates relative to pre-smartphone trends by years before and since smartphones. And effectively he's saying basically that these are creating a highly distracted, less sounds like vibrant world. I don't know if phone consumption is necessarily that. I wonder if there's a bunch of other parts that come with it, I'm sure. But I do think the world has woken up to how toxic these phones are for a variety of reasons. Like as well documented, I did do one day without a phone and I really missed that day. I want it back. And you said your Gen Z friends are like pretty unplugged, right?
They're pretty unplugged. I think they use it for business, and then they kind of go out in the world. And I talked to more. We'll get some of these guys on the podcast, but there's a lot of like these Gen Z founders that are starting things to bring people back into IRL, like in real life, to like share where their friends are going. I mean, it's Snap Maps, which is kind of hysterical, but like they're all building versions of it to get people back in the world together as opposed to on their phones together. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's also like doesn't have the years. Like it's very clearly like some picked over data. I get the trend. I think our friend of the pod, Imran Khan, commented on it that, this doesn't take into account the global financial crisis, like the pandemic. Like there are extenuating factors that probably also play a role in this.
Yes.
But
since phones have launched, me and you both created a total of 4 human beings. That's a lot of people.
That's true. Yeah.
We're making people. I can't believe we make people. It's amazing. So
I'm sure your wife would love for you to be like, yeah, we made 2 children.
We made 2 people.
They're just manufacturing. Yeah. Good.
All right. What else you got?
All right. This one. Curious to get your thoughts on this. Last week, actually Sunday, which is kind of interesting, is LiveRamp was announced that they're going to get acquired by Publicis, that the deal's in market. It was really interesting. It was Sunday, like at 4 p.m. That this news went out. Obviously, it shook through or shot through all of ad and marketing people, and this was kind of all over Twitter feeds, LinkedIn feeds. There's a lot of debate on this one, like what this actually means. I think a lot of people have covered it already. So I think like the question is like, is this the end of kind of independent like data pipes, which LiveRamp represented? Like, what about the data or the data piping for an agentic use case? I'm a little skeptical of like what this actually means for Publicis and how they actually intend to use this. I don't think there's been a great track record historically of these types of acquisitions, but in both the defenses, like both the stocks went up on the news, so clearly markets like it.
Yeah. One thing is, like the history of LiveRamp is like, it was originally Rapleaf. Do you remember that when it was back in the day?
Yeah,
it was like yeah, I think it was. It's like a really crazy, just like, I think it was like a LinkedIn like spam. It was like a little questionable, and I think that's correct. You can have listeners can fact check me on that, or you can type right now and find out if that's the case. But I think it's great for Publicis. I am skeptical of the agencies buying tech, although I think Publicis has done the best out of anyone. I think this whole idea that being independent for independence sake matters in ads has always been so laughable to me that it's we're not the fact that the Trade Desk isn't doesn't own inventory. It's okay, I don't really get why that matters. It's awesome that Meta owns inventory and can play with their own margins and that, and also just leverage all this data. So I don't really get the this idea that it's not even it's not like you're talking about voter rolls or your EMR. It's ads. I just have no idea why a purity test matters. So good for Publicis. They have something now that's really valuable, and they'll be able to bundle it into their things, and they'll be able to compete against other agencies to win clients. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they got a new asset, and they have a valued asset that they can go win new business with.
Yeah, the ads purity test is the weirdest purity test that I've ever heard of in my entire life. You're literally just forcing people to watch your thing. It's just what are we talking about? It's ads.
The ads purity test. That's the one we're going to run companies through now on this podcast. Is this past purity test?
Yeah. Hey Claude, are they pure in ads? It's so ridiculous. But anyway, it's good for them, and it's cool that we'll see can an agency become an ad tech company faster than the ad tech companies can become agencies.
Yeah,
and that's the little battle. Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah.
Switching to a kind of bummer one, but interesting. I thought this was super interesting. The official layoff. So layoff. It's the handle is @layoff.ai. There's leaked audio from Meta's All Hands, in which Zuck is talking about how they're going to be tracking the employees' usage to train their AI models, and you should listen to the whole thing. It's 6 minutes. Yeah. He basically says, and he has Alexander Wang, who used to run Scale, and he's listen, the reality is that the models that we currently use are trained off of contractors. And he's Alex is in the room with him, and he's Alex, I'll tell you how this works. It's basically people who are not as smart as you and us that we are learning from and building models out of. And so why would we learn from subpar contractors, right? And then all of us use that model to build things. Why wouldn't we all learn from ourselves and then reinforce that by using it here? He's we've assembled amazing people. Let's all go ahead and make the model better for us to then use. Which if you can just get the fear of you eventually getting fired out of your head, I get exactly what he's saying. And it also made me think, I'm a small investor in Turing, which is one of these companies. It made me think actually that Turing is super valuable. And I was yes, this is if Zuck is basically saying that it's worth spying on all of my customers in order to like slightly beat Turing. I was like, I'm so pro Turing in this. So yeah, that was my take on it. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean it's a really interesting story. Yeah, really, it's like a really uncomfortable story. Like you read through it, you listen to it, you're like, I get it at face value, but it's like a really uncomfortable thing to like hear your CEO talk about that. Like we're learning from you. It's a great PR job. Whoever like drafted those notes and that spin, like I think does a phenomenal job. Like it makes sense, but also like you're telling your entire company, you guys are smarter than everyone, so we want to learn from you. But if you fast forward, like, you know,
and I do think we talked about this last week, where it's like you do want to be as close to the state of the art model as humanly possible. And if you are a Meta employee, you have an opportunity to do that because you are building a foundation model. So I think the challenge is sort of similar to how like Publicis is becoming an ad tech business. Meta, which is traditionally a social network and an ads business, is in this pivot to being a foundational model business. And like to Zuck, it's obvious that's the most important thing. But to the employee, it's like, I thought we were like doing Advantage Plus and like trying to help you get more installs.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that's like the disconnect.
I'm curious to see, I mean, how data acquisition over the last few years kind of fed LLMs. And so you saw OpenAI and Anthropic kind of run to cut deals with Reddit or Wall Street Journal or New York Times, whatever. I'm curious if we start to see something similar here, that it's like, do employees start to unionize? And it's like, yeah, you're learning from our models, you know? It should be a really interesting.
I mean,
you could argue the same with Publicis. Like if brands are training a model that they don't, you know, have full license to forever, is that
yes.
the deals? Like if you're training somebody else's model, there's an argument to be made that you should be compensated somehow.
Yes. I don't know who told me this. Someone told me yesterday that, sorry, it's like a long-winded story, but it kind of makes sense, is Anthropic had been training a bunch of models off of physical books, but then you have to like keep the sources of what you train the model. And so they have built one of the largest libraries in the United States that like is purely just to house these books, because it's like the primary source that they train the models on. And that's like the proof of it. And that's like how they, it's like, that's how they can get around like copyright. But it's just a good example of like, to your point, you know, I think if I were an employee, I would definitely want to make sure, and I know that at Meta they do, you definitely have to have stock. It's either like you're getting compensated like indirectly or directly, right? And in this case, like their work actually will, in theory, results in more earnings for the stock. So like you could argue they are getting a rev share, whereas like, you know, when we are using XYZ service and we're not getting a rev share, it's different. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. No, that was it's worth the 6.5 minute listen for sure. This next one, I mean, oh man, we got some bummer news, but no, this one's actually interesting, but it does make you question a lot of social media. It's an excerpt from the New York Magazine, but from Brian Zizuk, where he just basically says virality is manufactured, nothing is real. The whole article is basically that what we all see on the feeds is manufactured by companies who run bot farms that go get clipping armies to create content and push it out there and basically force the algorithms into certain directions, which is actually interesting when you look back at the prediction markets that we were just talking about. And like, there are market makers, and you're starting to see that happen here, is that you can actually start to manipulate these markets and influence then what people spend time on, what they see. And we know this anecdotally, but I think particularly with the rise of like clipping in that conversation, like we're seeing it here. We talked about Spencer Pratt last weekend. Like he's doing that. Justin Bieber went viral after Coachella, and there's arguments that he was doing, you know, clipping. Like we're seeing it in real time kind of play out. Yeah.
I think the feed is fake is a good reminder to everyone that the feed is fake. I mean, it's
again, Gen Z, man, you gotta be careful then. If you're not following people and you're just counting the algorithm.
Yeah, I think the on one hand, I think there are really sophisticated people gaming it. On the other hand, I have so many friends that have little like vibe coded projects that struggle to get any distribution. And so like, I think it's fake. It's fake, but like also like it's not that easy. Like we have really smart friends who like could figure this out if it was figure outable. I think there's a huge portion of it that's just super random. The exception being X. I think X is totally gameable. I think like without a doubt, you can basically game it. I actually think Instagram is incredibly ungameable right now. And I talked to someone about this week, and who like specializes in gaming these things. Yeah. And he said X super gameable, Reddit gameable, LinkedIn gameable. Instagram is the one that like is like ahead of the users in it, which is kind of cool.
That's interesting. Yeah. We go back to the market example. If you get enough throughput and enough on both sides of it, then I guess it's really hard, much harder to game the market. Let's wrap that one up. Next, we got Lightspeed just announced that they hired Claire Zhu as a new investor on their team. What makes this one interesting, though, is that, yes, she's an investor, but she's actually a brand, a personal brand. She's got a massive media following. And they're kind of doing the same playbook we've seen other VC firms do. Is it sounds like they're going to put together a show or some kind of content generating arm of the business. And I think Claire is like the first hire for that, the first major hire for that.
Makes sense. Has to do it. A16Z has shown the way. I've actually had people reach out to us. This is kind of flattering to be like, you guys should do ADSN Ventures and just like have startups on here and invest in it because we have a little platform, which I was like, that's kind of awesome. It's an interesting idea.
Talking about that on the podcast. This is apparently everything goes here.
I haven't been like doing it, but someone said it, and I was like, "That's interesting because it's just the same." It's just like if you have a little distribution, it makes sense. So, like in this case, I think she'll have a show. It's gonna be great. They can feature all of the investments they have. They can have a point of view. Again, A16Z does such a good job. They do like those requests for ideas. They do those sort of thesis sit downs. It's perfect. And it's really interesting. Like you want to watch it. So I think it's awesome. And I wish her absolutely best of luck. I think it's going to be very cool. That's
Excited for that one. All right. What do we got next?
We got this tweet from Kriti Gupta, which is Shein is acquiring Everlane. Luckin Coffee is acquiring Blue Bottle. ANTA Sports acquired controlling stakes in Puma, Arc'teryx, and Salomon. Chinese consumer brands have quietly become global. This, I think, is really interesting because there hasn't been a backlash to it. Yeah. Whereas it was such an invasion of privacy when the Chinese apps were taking over America. But I think for some reason, like textiles, it looks like, and I guess just like CPG are open season 4. I have no problem with it, and I'm like fairly, anti, sort of some of these trade relationships. So but yeah, I don't think it's a problem. It reminds me of there's a movie, a really great movie in the 70s, Network. You ever seen Network?
No, maybe I got to go look this up. Tell us about it.
Oh, it's like one of my favorite movies. And it's basically about how like the government blocks. There's a deal in which like the Saudis are going to buy an asset in the U.S. and the government blocks it, and it's basically like how like they've taken the money out because like we had to pay for all the oil, and now like they're putting it back in, and like this is how it works, and it's like you don't block that. Like, and in this case, it's like we've spent a lot of money for Chinese goods over the years, and now they're buying U.S. assets, and so like the money needs to come back in, and so but it's a really famous scene where it's like countries are like a college of corporations. It's a great movie. It's like there's like a mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. You ever hear that?
From that?
That's where it's from. Okay. Yeah.
I just looked at 1976. All right, this is on the.
It's a great movie. Now. Yep. Fun fact: Ned Beatty won Best Supporting Actor, and it was the shortest. I think this is correct. The shortest amount of screen time for like an Oscar winner, maybe ever. And yeah, pretty interesting.
Fun, filled with trivia.
Yeah.
Trivia.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting.
I think this one's super interesting. I think the Shein Everlane one is interesting. Just I think the history of the branding of those, and D2C Twitter kind of did its thing, breaking that down. I think Luckin Coffee and ANTA Sports. I didn't realize this, but apparently ANTA Sports is the third largest sportswear company in the world, behind Nike and Adidas. So and when you really think about it, it's like, all right, you've got the biggest single population in the world buying this stuff, and you're the manufacturer for the rest of the globe. Yeah, you're probably going to build a pretty big business and eventually eat up the people you're supplying.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And just want to confirm that, yes, Ned Beatty holds the all-time record for the shortest screen time performance ever nominated for the Best Supporting Actor Oscar. He was in the film for 6 minutes, which made up less than 5% of the film. And I believe he won it too. It's a pretty interesting fact.
This gave me flashbacks. Anyone who listens to Joe Rogan or something, he always goes, "Hey, Jamie, fact check that or go find that." I feel like you just did that live. You went to Claude your Jamie.
Yeah, I like this new thing where I can like read our we have all these posts here. I'm reading it. I can look at my phone and check. It's nice.
Hey, Jamie, Ned Beatty.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So this one, an interview with TBPN. Ben Heilich kind of responds to Ryan Chesky's interview the previous week about Airbnb and LLMs, where he kind of said, like, Airbnb is not a place for LLMs. Like, that is, eventually we'll get there, but they're not there yet. And Ben Heilich basically pushed back, and he said, if Airbnb had an API, I would use it. I would book it. Airbnb's through using Cloud Clo, I know I would do it. And then he goes on to kind of explain why companies reducing themselves into an API with absolutely no moat is just like you're an integration, right? You become just this MCP, this cloud integration. You lose kind of all value. And so he was making the argument that like Airbnb should own this, should do this, as opposed to kind of giving it up over time.
Yeah, I think it may not matter that Airbnb doesn't want to. I think that like everyone's looking for the platform shift, and the platform shift is the agent. And so whether you like it or not, like they had to build an iPhone app. Like you can go to Airbnb.com, but I would guarantee you the core asset is that iPhone app or that mobile app, because Android and Apple are the dominant distribution, and the world is moving towards these apps that you talk to. And so it's, I think they're going to have to embrace it. I mean, obviously the Airbnb guys are so smart. They'll figure it out. But I don't think you fight it, but I also don't think you have to do it yet. Like I continue to be shocked how few people fully grasp what these things can do, like in my normal life. And like, we're like on the coast and we have friends in tech. So like, I think they got time.
Yeah. I do like his thing where it's like, it's the thing you have to do now, but he's almost, saying the opposite of what we've said so long of like, you actually do need people interacting with your UI. Like if you give up total control to the chatbots that others control, like you lose the game. Right. And so I think it's an interesting point where it's like, you have to
maybe a different game, the game may have shifted,
Ooh, I like it. Okay. On that note, let's get to it.
Primary post! Primary post!
Started off this week. This one I found really interesting, and the internet kind of had different takes on this, which was interesting. From leading report, alcohol consumption among U.S. adults has fallen to the lowest level recorded in Gallup's nearly 90-year history, which some of the internet's just like, that's terrible. That's so sad. It's like, I don't know, like this is actual poison we're putting in our body. Like we have data that supports that. We know that. We all know that personally. I think there's like social benefits to going drinking, but I don't think the alcohol is the draw, right? Like, I mean, you and I have drinks and we go ideate things and we go have fun. But it was just an interesting thing to see the internet go kind of have a debate on this when it seems like non-debatable.
Yeah, I think it's obviously alcohol is in and of itself is bad for you. I agree. You see all these things about the blue zones where like they have a glass of wine. It's like social. So I think there's other tertiary benefits. I also just think observing my own kind of community. I'd be curious to know what the percentage of straight edge is, like no toxin, right? Like, I feel like it's like, it may be all time high toxin usage, just maybe it shifted is what I observed, but who knows?
No toxin, no seed oils, no alcohol, just
yes, but it was
salad and chicken.
It reminds me a bit of just like I listened to the Acquired podcast about F1, which is awesome. Everyone should listen to it. It's like 3 hours long, but it's great. And it talked about how the cigarette industry spent like $5 billion of ads sponsoring F1 cars over the course of like that period in which you were allowed to do it. And it was basically a loophole because they couldn't advertise on TV anymore. But you obviously could advertise like on the cars, and it was affiliated with like speed and wealth and all these things they wanted to be affiliated with. And so I'd be curious to see like how this changes in terms of just like advertising habits as these consumptions start to move and shift. Like I bet we see it in the real world show up pretty soon. And then my primary post is from Anders Paparian. He built a Meta Ray-Bans app that lets you see your Shopify and your ad spend metrics inside your Ray-Bans. And so he's like, there's a whole video of him like walking around, but it's awesome. I mean, it's like terrifying because like you just like, how distracted must you be if you're like just seeing your like CPA come in as you're just like watching your kid at baseball. But if you would have shown that a year ago, I'd be like, what are you talking about? That's just like not real. And now it's here. So I think, we talk about like computing platforms, platforms are changing. This is one here. And I think it's a really good use case. But everyone should check out the video. It's very good. And I guess I'd want to, I don't know what I'd want to use it for, but someone will come up with something cool, I'm sure.
I don't know. Nothing sounds less interesting to me than be at your kid's baseball game or mowing the lawn, checking my ROAS on Meta.
Yeah.
I think it's hysterical though.
It's cool he did it. And actually it's funny. I wanted to like vibe code one, just like I saw it and I was like, I want to go vibe code one of these. And then I was like, that's such a bad use of time. Just like, but I'm happy Anders did it. Everyone should check it out. All right.
And I'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.
It's ADSN on the beat, where the data meets the street. James and Daniel in your feed, breaking down the code you need. Tech talk, ad game, and a little AI. Every week we got the chat on ADSN.